So it's been a couple of days since the straight up unthinkable happened. That is the passing, the sudden passing, I must add, of Michael Brooks. Now, this happened very randomly and very out of the blue, which is what kind of makes it even more of a gut punch. This isn't a situation where it's like, oh, Michael Brooks has been battling with some disease and we knew it was going to come to an end soon. No, from reports, he died of a quote sudden medical condition, which means he died suddenly from this medical condition coming on. But it's really insane, honestly. It doesn't really feel real. Even though you know that okay, this is real, but it doesn't feel real though. And this is such a big story that CNN picked it up, Fox News picked it up, some really big news networks had picked up this story about Michael Brooks, and he was obviously a major part of the Majority Report, but he also built his own channel up. And so it's really heartbreaking and devastating, partly because I would say he was just entering the prime of his life. He had just built up his channel, finally. He was on the Majority Report for years, basically building up his name. Then he built up his own show, and, everything's set. Once you lay the infrastructure for a channel down, it's a lot easier. So once you have subscribers and things like that, you can just put out videos really at your own pace and make the views. And he was in that position. Finally, he had worked really hard to get there, and people were officially originally saying he was 37 upon his death. That's actually not true. He was 36. I believe his birthday is like August 10th or something like that. It was sometime in early August or in August. So the man didn't even make it to age 37. He died at the age of 36, which makes it all the more tragic, all the more heartbreaking. And it's really weird. And when I first found out about this on the day that he died, I didn't find out about it on Twitter because I don't use Twitter. I was just on scrolling, watching videos on YouTube, and I don't know if it came up in the home feed recommended or the suggested box, but I saw the video from Kyle where it said "Rip Michael Brooks." Now it seemed very serious, didn't seem like a joke title or anything like that. And so when I clicked on it and I started listening to the video, I was like, immediately in my head I was like, oh, this is just a dream or something like that. Because I had a dream a couple of days before that Joe Rogan had died. So I was like, it's just a dream. But then it sat in with me. I'm like, no, I've been awake for a while now. It wasn't like I was lying in bed. I just woke up. No, like I had been awake for a while. And so I was like, this is real. And it feels like people are just dropping like flies right now. With coronavirus in 2020, life has really just become kind of a shithole, honestly, ever since the corona stuff has happened. Everything has gone down the toilet. And, I saw that the Majority Report, and, I've seen most people basically been doing their tributes to him. And, what I wanted to do was just, tell you about my personal dealings with Michael, as you guys know, Michael, I did an interview with Michael. He was actually really kind enough to come on my channel for an interview back when I was under like 15,000 subscribers at that point. I had not had any real big guests up until that point. I think he was like the first big guest that I had on. He took time out of his busy schedule to actually come on the weekend because at the time he was really, really busy with his show every weekday, and he reached out, some point, he reached out saying, "Oh, I forgot. We'll definitely do this on next Saturday." And so we did it on the weekend, and it was a really dope interview. I actually wanted to go even longer, but he was so busy he had to go. But he was kind enough to come on my show when it was only like 15,000 subscribers. Basically a little puppy channel, and he was just so nice. He would always be giving me shout outs on the Majority Report like nonstop. I mean, and that's why you really shouldn't take people like that for granted, and you should really try to cherish your time with people. And just, it's hard to do because, it's a difficult thing to do just because, it really hits when they're gone, right? So it's like, oh, it's a tough thing to do, but I don't really know how the progressive left online community is really going to grapple with this because he was such a big figure in so many people's lives. Like, people watch this guy on a daily. I watched him all the time. fact, it was weird. It's super spooky, and I don't know if this happens with everybody's death. In the Joe Rogan recap video I just posted, it's spooky as hell. I had talked about how Joe Rogan had basically mentioned Michael Brooks, who he mistakenly called Michael Roberts, and I ended off the video saying like it's inevitable that Michael Brooks is going to come on and Sam Cedar. And because people are asking, oh, is David Pakman going to go on? Obviously, this was before he got on the Joe Rogan podcast. And it ended up being, yeah, just eventually time will come. And I believe that Sam Cedar and Michael Brooks are both probably going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast. And now he's dead, so he can't go on. It's really spooky, and it's almost like a cruel joke is what it feels like. That's really what it feels like. It's just like this. It's like this cruel joke that's being played on you, and it's like, it's really fucked up. Like, really, really, really fucked up. And I don't know how the progressive online left community is going to grapple with this, because he was such a big part of literally everybody's, lives. And so, first of all, there were a ton of people who watched this guy on a daily basis. Michael really he really was unique in this sphere too, because, he didn't do what everyone else even did. He had his own content, His content was more focusing on things like, African politics, the history of African politics, and just these more historical and sort of different areas that, most progressive news is just like the daily news cycle. His wasn't like that. His was very different. So he would offer political analysis, not only on American news and politics, but on, other countries and things that people didn't cover. And, that's really what made him so unique as a creator. And he had linked up with literally everyone. He would link up with Kyle Kulinski. Obviously, he had a show with Danny Kasparian. So it's like he played an integral part in pretty much everybody in this sphere's lives. And, there's that picture of Michael with Crystal Ball and Kyle. And it's just like, fuck. Fuck. That is fucked up to look at now. To see that kind of a thing. It really is just really random and really sudden, and I don't know how the online left community is going to be able to process something like this, because the Majority Report forever is not going to have Michael Brooks, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's just going to be this elephant in the room that not only is it, losing Michael Brooks, I think, if let's say he were to have just left the show, I think would have been a big hit for the show, just in terms of its quality because of him being gone. But, now you're just going to constantly remember Michael Brooks and the things that he did on the Majority Report. So it's almost like the Majority Report is now cursed, because anytime I'll tune into the Majority Report, I'll think of Michael Brooks. I'll think of what we're missing without Michael Brooks. Hey, this would have been so hilarious with Michael Brooks. This segment could have been better with Michael Brooks. And so I'm not sure how people are really going to process this. I'm going to do my best to, remember his name and, continue it going. I'm going to try to give him tributes in the recap videos and different stories like that. But, what Michael Brooks really was all about was, and this is what made him such a noble dude, is that, he really dedicated his life to defending the vulnerable, is the way that I like to put it, because he would defend poor people. It was all about solidarity internationally. He was all about defending poor people and the working class. That is what he was all about. Defending minorities. People who were vulnerable, oppressed, discriminated. Michael Brooks was there to defend them. And that's what made him such a noble dude. And so, as a pretty hardcore atheist, it's hard, this is one of those situations where, like, man, I do hope there's, like, an afterlife or heaven where Michael can go to, but I can't really rationalize that. But it's just, that's something that comes at odds when something like this happens. And it kind of makes you realize why people, believe in that kind of stuff. But hopefully, the progressive online left will be able to really carry on his legacy. He did not deserve to die at this age. He was way too young. He was only 36 years old, didn't even make it to 37. And the cruelest part is, like I said, man, he was just entering the prime of his life. He had just spent the prior years building up his channel and building up his infrastructure. And now it's all gone. So we're going to have to carry on the legacy of Michael Brooks.